What's going on, everybody? Doc and Sloth from Average Gamer Guys. We're back yet again. More Halo Wars 2 action. Something we've been wanting to do here. We finally feel comfortable doing. We're going to do Cansano deck guides. Now, contrary to what we normally do, which is provide one guide for you, we're actually doing two different decks. So we're going to jump into this. We'll try to keep it as short as we can. As you guys know, we like to chat. So we're setting up. This is the first deck. This is probably more traditional for us. This is actually the deck right here I used in the Sano 2v2 competitive, the first competitive match I jumped into. And I've come to like it. It fits my playstyle. I like a general curve. And I think this deck, the way it sets up, as you guys are seeing it on the screen, has a good amount of top-end firepower while also having good mid to low counters for a lot of the stuff that I feel like you're going to see. I took into consideration, again, the fact that Cansano Cyclops, for top tier unit, can't hit air. That's why you're going to see both sets of Wolverines in this one. And then again, the Cyclops took a little bit of a nerf, but they're definitely something that we want to kind of continue to keep in. Veteran Cyclops being the one that really stayed the same. So we see that getting thrown in there. Veteran Hellbringers, I've talked about these guys. They're just statistically better than the standard Hellbringers, although those did get the buff. At 20 extra energy, the Veteran Hellbringers, they're just that much better. And we are seeing, with somewhat amount of frequency, kind of a small unit continuous spam where people are bringing in a lot of either grunts and hunters, or we're also seeing a lot of Marines, Tractor Marines, and Cyclops. So having some type of hard infantry counter unit, I think, is something that kind of need to consider. And they, with the Veteran Hellbringers, they really fit the spot for us. The rest of this deck, and I don't want to seem like I'm breezing through it too much, but again, it sits up kind of like we normally do, a good, nice curve, literally almost just straight up from 30 to 100. And then obviously we have our top tier units here. Got to have the Vulture, got to have the Scorpion. And then comparatively, in our 2v or our Cansano unit comparison, we talked about the difference between the regular Flamehog and the Veteran Flamehog. Veteran Flamehog, again, in my opinion, and statistically, it's just better. The additional 30 energy, this thing, the increased range, this is great. This is actually probably one of my favorite units that Cansano's update brought, and specialty units for her. And I like it. The extra 30 energy, totally worth it to bring this thing in. And honestly can provide some good fights, and actually has a good amount of health comparatively for a Warthog. So nice to see that. Obviously, we've got our Sage unit with the Kodiak. And then the only other two things I want to highlight on, obviously, the nice thing is this deck you can go out and build as long as you have this DLC, because everybody gets all of the cards unlocked. Inferno is an absolute monster. This I feel very comfortable saying that this is the best leader power in the game as far as Blitz is concerned for overall damage right now. Obviously, it's consistent damage over a period of time. So if you're playing against somebody and they're really managing their army well, they're not going to lose all of their entire army to this. But how big of an area of effect this has, how fast this thing drops in, and honestly how fast the residual burn damage hits, you're almost always guaranteed you're taking multiple units out with this thing when you bring it in. It's absolutely great for defending a point or taking a point, and really turning the tide of a fight in your direction. So definitely recommend putting it in there. At 180 energy, it sits pretty good as far as the rest of the leader powers are concerned. And then the last thing, Cansano Cyclops again. I'm not as much of a fan of this as I was at the beginning. Sloth, I think, got to see it a little bit. We've playing a little bit. I just think the fact that it can't hit air really does hurt it. Blast isn't an ability like we've talked about that you really seem to want on a leader. And Flame Wall, I don't really like the Flame Wall ability, especially in Blitz. I think it locks her down for too long of a period. People are managing their armies a little bit better, moving units quite a bit, and I just think people are able to get out of this ability faster than they really should have.
Yeah, and we've actually seen the blast ability not do what it used to do. It's no longer an insta kill for anything within the radius. So that just kind of makes that much less attractive. I know I said that weird, but it doesn't make that near as attractive as you would want a hero to be. But on the flip side, I mean, Inferno is nasty. I mean, everything you said about it is really true. The residual burn damage is really, really good. We've actually tested it in the standard multiplayer against buildings and stuff, and it just sits there and eats away at them. And the coolest thing is the area of effect is huge. It's similar to the cluster bombs that was it Cutter drops. Just a huge, huge area. So, I mean, that's really helpful. And then the only other thing I wanted to add on to this one too is Veteran Flamehog versus Flamehog. Veteran Flamehog still is red against air, but it is nowhere near as bad as the standard Flamehog.
Hmm.
So you're actually going to be doing a little bit more. And I know that's a lot of attention being paid to the air units, having a Wolverine and a Vanguard Wolverine, and then, kind of pointing to the veteran Flamehog as another way to really attack the air. But there's a big weakness here. Your veteran Hellbringers and Cansano can't touch them. And I mean, there's just a lot of weaknesses across the board to that. Pardon me, the veteran Cyclops can't hit air either. So you have 3 units in there that can't even touch them. And then you have your healer who's not going to touch anybody. So you really need to be focused on those anti-air units and just getting some chip damage from other things like the veteran Flamehog.
Right. The other thing I'll highlight too, and that's a great point. Your Kodiak, a lot of times you're sieging this thing down, you're locking it in, and it's not hitting there at that point either. So the other reason, a nice thing that we'll see, especially with the Wolverine and the Vanguard Wolverine, if you have to make a choice, always put the Vanguard Wolverine in. I don't care, because it is that good. Rush is awesome, and the additional damage this thing does is just huge. But the nice thing is when you pair a Wolverine into the group, and you're able to take out that opposing units or team's healing units, or say their one air unit that they might have, it can really turn the tide of a fight for you. So having a good mix, as you see here, is kind of this general strategy for this. As far as starting army, guys, you got to go demolitions in my opinion. The 2 veteran Flamehogs are great. They're great for taking the early points. They're great for grabbing you early energy. And honestly, I just hate the Inferno army. I get it. It makes sense. But again, look at what you're sitting with. If they bring in anything that, if they're, who is it? I can't remember which leader. That has the 2 Banshees.
Anders.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Anders. There you go. But also the 2 Banshees. I mean, you can't even fight those. You literally aren't even engaging them. So I prefer her Demolitions army. I think it's just that much better. So we'll wrap that deck. Give you one last quick look at it. Again, pretty similar to what we normally see. Deck stats, nice general curve. We got the tie end on that side. One leader power, but I think really the only one you need is Inferno here. And besides that, this deck works out pretty good if you're more if you like to have a little bit of answer for everything. The second deck we'll talk about is a little bit more strategic to the smaller group fights. I actually just used this with Sloth in some 2v2s and really enjoyed it. So you'll see kind of our top end being our veteran Flamehog, the Inferno, and Cansano Cyclops. That's really going to stay the same. Obviously, we just talked about those. The rest of this deck, though, sets up that you can kind of do some really good small group fights and really contest for some points without having to spend a whole lot of energy. You see, we got the Marines, got the standard Cyclops in there. We still got veteran Hellbringers. Still got the standard Wolverine. We throw in the Extractor Marines, and that really rounds out. You'll see the energy curve for this deck really low at the front end, which allows you to pump out some more units. The nice thing that I found with this deck is that allows you to make those early fights, gain some of that early advantage, get to some of those early energy drops. But then the nice thing is later on into the fight, especially in 2v2s, if Sloth's struggling, maybe with a point, I can throw a couple of units his way. If not, I can kind of hold up my energy, power up, get Cansano out, hold for a really offensive or defensive Inferno that can really turn the tide of some battles.
Yeah, and I mean this whole thing is going to be basically shotgun. You're doing birdshot. You're just throwing multiple units out and trying to make them stick. And I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but it really can work, especially when you have good synergy with your 2v2 partner. If they're able to pump out some of those bigger units because you're keeping everybody busy with those smaller units, you're going to be really successful.
Yeah, Sloth actually used Shipmaster in the last fight that we had, and it was really beneficial because he was able to really kind of set up the siege piece. He was calling in some blisterbacks, really getting those set up, and he was able to kind of power his army up a little bit stronger. So he made a pretty definitive force. I was able to kind of again get some of that chip damage in, and the nice thing too is you're really going to be able to create an army that has really no weakness to everything. You throw a Marine with maybe some Hellbringers, with a Cyclops, with a Wolverine, and a Nightingale over top of them for a pretty low amount of energy. That's a decent little army that's going to be able to make some fights. So that's kind of how we're setting it up here. And again, you have the top tier. That way, when the game gets a little bit later, you've got that energy advantage. Then you can really start pouring it on and locking down those points. So that about wraps it up. So we'll kind of shelve it there. We'll give you another quick look at our second of 2 decks. Let us know which one. Again, we've had some success with both of these, especially setting up in some 2v2s. So let us know. Let us know your comments. If you got a Cansano build that you're really liking, by all means, let us know. And we look forward to kind of continuing that conversation, continue comments. We really do enjoy all of that stuff. And yeah, so I've been Doc. That's been Sloth. This is our Cansano deck build. As always, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, and feel free to join the Average Gamer Guys Xbox Club. We've got a good community going there. And as always, comment down below. We do really enjoy talking to you guys and love all of the support that you guys have been giving us. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. We'll check you next time.